fans, welcome back to Room 237, and it is now time for part 4 of my reviews for the Wrong Turn series, which now, for this half of the original series, I guess, we come to the prequel parts, which 1 through 3, I guess, is like regular time, and then 4, 5, and 6 are all prequels. Again, I'm not doing 6 because I don't own it right now unless I find it to watch. But Wrong Turn 4, Bloody Beginnings, is the first of the 3 prequels. And this review might actually surprise a lot of people because, by and large, this is known to be one of the worst films in the entire series. Almost every review everywhere shits all over this film, rants on it. I will rant on this, but this is not, in my opinion, the worst one. To me, I still dislike part 3 the most. 4 was the first one I saw, and it's not for that reason. But as bad of a movie as I see it, I do see it for all the same flaws that everyone else has. I am not a fan of prequels, but I see this as like a so bad it's good, dumb fun, mindless fun kind of movie. This came out in 2011, and it was again directed by Declan O'Brien, who directed part 3. We'll go on to direct part 5. We actually have a different actor playing Three Finger, which the Three Finger from 3 and 5 is the same actor, which actually Three Finger and One Eye are brothers in real life, stuntman brothers. And like I've said for every review in this series, the one compliment I have to give every film, even 3, is they do find a way to keep it somewhat original as far as how these people are getting in the inbred hillbillies territory. And also, I do kind of like it when they take like a summer woodsy kind of setting for a series and put it in snow, which I know there's that fan film for Friday the 13th that's put in the snow, which I've been meaning to review. I don't really do fan films much. I've actually never done a fan film, but maybe I'll check that one out. I've seen it, but maybe I'll do a review of it. It does make it that much more different and original when you take that sort of summer setting and put it in the winter. And I know there's people out there that do enjoy prequels, that would like to see prequels for everything. I've talked to people that, I hopefully, or I wish, or it'd be nice if they made a prequel that would explain this, or that would, give a little bit of backstory or an origin on how this character became that way. And for me, prequels are really pointless films because overall, everyone's going to die. The killer's not going to be stopped because everything needs to be set up for the first film. And most questions that they attempt to answer either are not asked or are very unoriginal answers. Now, I will say, this one, you kind of can play around with hillbilly mutants, I guess. I much prefer this over Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning. I still think that is a completely useless film. Go watch my epic rant on that movie where I go into why all the answers in that movie are completely crap and useless. And yeah, the exposition in this is a little... That's all I can say, kind of like everyone else is alright. But I do like the opening because also I'm a big sucker for settings in hospitals or asylums, or in this case, a sanatorium. Especially if it's run down. I love that setting. I've always loved hospitals and sort of asylum, sanitarium, torium settings. But I do like the opening where it takes place in 1974, where we see the three brothers as kids. The credits show them to be 8, 9, and 10 years old, but One Eye and Sawtooth look way older than that. And another reason why I like this as a prequel more than, say, Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning is because that's a movie that really takes itself seriously, and it's really trying to be sort of really dark and gritty and in your face, kind of shocking. Okay. Whereas this one, it knows what it is. I mean, it's not self-referential or a parody like some sequels or prequels can be. But, I mean, it has a main cast of, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 main characters, and then two in the opening. It has a pretty high amount of victims. It's a big body count film. It's really just another movie just to see people get killed. It's another fun slasher. And in that regard, I do have fun with it. Also, where Wrong Turn 3 was almost all horrendous Sci-Fi Channel CGI. I mean, Declan O'Brien is a Sci-Fi Channel filmmaker. You know, like Sharktopus and whatever the hell. Movies I'll never review. There is some horrendous CGI, but there's also plenty of practical effects. There are a couple familiar faces. Dean Armstrong as Daniel. I know he is the agent or associate of the main character in Saw 7. The one that gets like the blinded trap that has to walk those planks. Tanika Davis as Sarah. Okay, she was in Saw 6 as irate clinic woman. So, two Saw actors. No one else you can click on for cast, so it's really a bunch of nobodies. But Sean Skeen plays, so actually 9 main character victims. 10 if you count the one that was killed beforehand off screen. Sean Skeen plays the first victim, Vincent, but also plays Three Finger. His brother Daniel Skeen plays One Eye, and Scott Johnson plays Sawtooth. And I believe this was filmed entirely in Canada. Because I think after a while, all Wrong Turns were filmed in Canada. I wish I could have got the name of the actual rundown sanatorium. But there's no production link on this. But anyway, so the film opens up in 1974. The chief of staff doctor is giving a tour to this young woman doctor who's like a musical therapist. She's just starting out, and giving her a tour of the hospital. And it's all exposition. He's saying there's like 180 something patients. They're all mentally and physically deformed due to inbreeding. So this one really plays on the inbred aspect, not so much toxic chemicals, which I do prefer. because I think the toxic chemicals does kind of make it a little too close to the radiation of Hills Have Eyes, which Wrong Turn's always been compared to anyway. But so they're walking down this one corridor. She gets grabbed by this one patient. And then they walk further along, and the three brothers are all in one cell together. Are not really sure why, even though he says all these patients are in extreme danger to themselves and others, but they put these three brothers together. And then this is probably the most Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning scene in the whole film, because we see why they're called, why they have the names they do. It's like the youngest one that's sucking on the stumps of his hand. He chewed off his other two fingers. We think he ate them. The other one stabbed his eye out with a fork. The tall one with the mask was grinding his teeth against the wall to sharpen them. And then there's that bit where, like, they call them the Hilliker brothers because Mrs. Hilliker found them out in the woods, standing over the partially eaten remains of who they believe is their parents. But, of course, that's wrong because we know the gas station guy is their parent. And yes, the acting is poor. That is some. It's not enough to turn me off from the film. But like the doctor's like, these bastards are smart. But then in the same conversation, he says how their only language is grunts and gestures. So she wants to work with them. He says, you know, they're the most dangerous patients, maybe after a while. So they walk off. And the first patient that grabbed her shows that he has like a hairpin. And he tries to undo his cell. They grunt for him to toss it. He does. And then they get out. And there is some over-the-top acting, especially from the young actor that did One Eye, because he's doing a lot of like I guess what anybody would do if they had like a bunch of makeup on. The makeup is not the best. It's better than 3, better than 5. 5 is the most laughable. 5, the makeup almost looks like a comedy. This, it's not the best. I mean, 2 looks much better than this, but alright. It's not 5. Like Sawtooth almost looks like a Geico caveman in 5, but I'll save that for 5. They get the orderly by the door to come in. They kill him. Like, yeah, Sawtooth bites his throat out. One Eye stabs him. 3 Finger bites his nose off, and he kind of like, damn, that's good. And then they let all the other patients out. And I do like how they put the Blue Danube music over all the patients just wreaking havoc. Which I guess there's no doctors or orderlies other than the couple like corridor orderlies, the musical therapist, and the chief of staff. But the 3 brothers are pretty much electroshocking to death the musical therapist. And then this is a good practical kill. The chief of staff, he's got all 4 of his limbs tied with barbed wire to the gears that open all the cells. And as it pulls him, I mean, it doesn't just rip off his limbs. I mean, we see it like the bottom half of his arm that gets pulled off. We see it like pull the top half out of its socket as well. So it like dislocates the rest, then separates, all practically. The only wonky part about that effect would be, after he's got 2 limbs ripped off, the dummy or actors kind of just like, limp and not really acting, but the audio is still screaming. But you see what you forgive when you have practical effects. So that was 1974. We jumped to 2003. And most of this section of the film, I can kind of just skip, because it's, we have one couple, another couple, a lesbian couple, so that's 6. I think one other couple, and then a sort of the lead girl, which her boyfriend is the one that's already gone up to the cabin on his snowmobile. They're all meeting up with him. But we get sex scenes from almost all of them. Yeah, this has the most sex scenes out of all of them. Like, we literally had, once present day, well, not really present day, but 2003 opens up, we have like this couple having sex, lesbian couple having sex, the lead girl kind of walking around and like making jokes about how they're just having sex. Then they all get on the 4-wheelers. They're all trying to get out to this cabin where a member of their party is supposed to be. The one guy makes a wrong turn, bad directions. They're lost. It's a blizzard. They find the sanatorium, just sort of off in the distance. They're able to get in. They decide to take shelter there. And they just kind of party there. I'm guessing the sanatorium just shut down. There wasn't much investigating, because everything is sort of left the way it is. There's still, I was going to say power, but they do find a generator. They find like 30-year-old scotch in the chief of staff's desk. That was 30 years old 30 years ago. As someone in recovery, I'm like, that sounds damn good. They find all the files still in there, which they're looking at all of them. And, they're smoking their weed, they're drinking their alcohol, they're all going around on wheelchairs. But the 3 brothers are still there. I'm guessing they ate all the other patients. No one cared to check on this hospital. No one went to go check on it, I'm guessing. It doesn't really go into that. Not important. But we do get some scenes, like when they're all dancing in this one room, and like one eye is on the other way of this 2-way glass, sort of watching them. They're all in their wheelchairs. They get to the auditorium. They find these reels. They put it on as this silent black and white footage of one eye getting shock treatment. Oh, because that's another thing that this movie adds in the beginning. The reason why they're able to bite off their fingers, stab themselves in the eye, is because they have this very rare condition where they don't feel pain. I guess that's also why they're so fucking hard to kill. And then after that, and then this one girl sort of gives a Jeepers Creepers kind of story about how whenever she would go through this area of West Virginia, her brother would tell her stories about the inbred hillbilly cannibals. They all go to bed. The one guy, Vincent, decides to go exploring. He thinks he sees the friend that they were going to meet up, because we do see the brothers dragging him through the snow at one point. So they already got to him. So he tries to talk to him, but of course Sawtooth gets to him, stabbing him through the jaw and out the head. And that's the guy that also plays Three Finger. And Three Finger is definitely more like in this one. Not as bad as 5. He's a cartoon in 5. But that's kind of all he does in this as well. Next day they all wake up. And, the distributor cables to the snowmobiles are gone. Their jackets are gone. They have, they're stranded. Except this one girl, Lauren, she does have like an extra jacket and skis. She's the fastest skier, so she's gonna try and ski down the mountain and get help, which we cut back to her twice. At one point, she started a little fire trying to warm her hands, but snow falls off a branch onto it. Then we see at the end, she sitting against a tree, froze to death, just within feet from a road with traffic on it. So the one that had to venture through the woods is the one that didn't get killed by the mutants. And then the rest of them, the rest of the movie's pretty much the slasher. They're all walking around saying, this is messed up, what's going on? They're out in the auditorium. The friend, Porter, that they were going to meet up with, his jacket gets thrown through the stage. They open it, it's his head. This one girl backs up, barbed wire comes down, pulls her up. Which, I like how the chief of staff in the beginning, the barbed wire was able to pull his limbs off, but this girl, the barbed wire, is able to cut through her neck and decapitate her. While her boyfriend's holding on to her, screaming the whole time, doused in blood. Although you do kind of get this cool camera shot where he slips on her blood, so the camera's like looking up, then the camera pans over to her severed head. Then we get up close of him screaming, with just completely red from the blood. And so then they lock themselves in the chief's office. Few of them decide to go off to get weapons from the cellar. Three Finger chases them with an axe. They get a couple things. They go back. The guy from Saw 7 silently gets taken. I do like this effect. They have him tied down to a table in the kitchen with barbed wire, of course. And they're just filleting flesh off his chest, his arm, his thighs. When they cut into him, it looks like CGI blood is running out of him. But the flesh they peel off is practical. So, well done there. And then they're making fondue, which I wonder where they get the onions and stuff like that, the oil. And then they pull his liver out to have liver and onions. There is one funny scene. And they're actually making fondue. They have like the sticks. One eye is eating it. He starts choking, so they hit him in the back and he spits it out. And it lands into the foreground, which is the boiling pot of oil. And Three Fingers just and he just starts laughing. I always chuckle at that. But they decide to set a trap so they can lure him back down to like the cell ward. They lock him into their cell from the beginning of the film. The guy who is covered in blood is going to set him on fire. The lead girl, who has the worst judgment in the whole film, says, no, we can't kill him because then we'll be no better than them. Okay, so they go back upstairs. He sits watch, falls asleep. They still have the hairpin in the toilet. We're able to get out. So then the four girls that are left are up in the office. Oh, at one point, Sawtooth has an ice auger that so there's a hole in the door. They hear something, they look out, and they see someone with 3 fingers, clothes, and a bag over his head, but free arms, apparently, moaning and running towards them. So they all decide to go out, attack him, and stab him to death, which I like how there's four 4 women, but I mean 4 people in general, just stabbing him at that, like, nonstop, all in the same area. Not one of them, like, none of them get nicked doing that. They roll him over and they see it's the guy that fell asleep with his tongue cut out so he couldn't say anything. And then we see Three Fingers wearing his clothes. But the guy had his arm. I could have swore he had his arms free. Could have pulled the sack off his head. But anyway, so then they start running through the asylum. They get up to the attic where they find where the 3 brothers live. They find their jackets. They get to this one room that's snowed in, but they tunnel out. The lead, one girl gets killed with a huge-ass ice auger. CGI, of course. CGI ice auger going through her. But they get outside. One Eye gets one of the girls, puts the snowmobile on top of her, which, when it shows her under the snowmobile, it is horrendous CGI blood that's spraying. But there is one part where, I guess when it finally kills her, it's just a geyser of practical blood. I do like how that looks. Improbable, but I like how it looks. Also, once we see the spray of the blood on the snow, just because I love the look of blood spatter art. Actually, it's been the sort of like red on white Dexter blood spatter look has been the wallpaper on my phone forever. I love how it looks. So then, 2 girls left. They make this sort of this one trap where it looks like this one girl's by herself. The lead girl's by herself. Sawtooth actually ate a branch and fell off a tree. Fell off a snowmobile. I don't know what happened to Three Finger, but One Eye is chasing the lead girl, and then the next to last one to survive comes out behind a snowbank, hits him with a branch, and he falls off. And of course it's a prequel, so they can't go up to him when he's knocked out and beat him to death. They get on the snowmobile, and they're driving away, and the music, the light music starts playing. You think it's over, and you hear, like, oh no, and it wasn't even a trap. It's a barbed wire fence, like out in the bit my tongue. A fence, a regular, like, not one they set up, fence out in the field, which when the heads are flying through the air, they do look pretty damn good. When they land, all right. And then we just see the yellow tow truck from the original film pull up. And yeah, I do know that, what movie was it that had that same ending? Oh, it's gonna bother me now. Where, someone going away, and then they get killed, and someone drives up, picks up the body parts. It's gonna bother me, but anyway. And that's the end of the movie. Like, yeah, not all the effects are practical, but not all of them are CGI either. When it's practical, it is a very nice, refreshing sight, especially after the horrendous CGI from Part 3. I will say the direction is an improvement over 3 from Declan O'Brien. The acting, for the most part, isn't bad. I mean, it's passable. Or it's more so the acting's there. It's enough to move the movie forward. I do love the setting. I love the setting of, the sanatorium, the rundown sanatorium. The makeup on the brothers, it looks better than it does in other films, but it's still pretty bad. I will say this is one of my least favorite Three Finger actors. I mean, The worst performance is probably 5, but it's the same actor that was in 3. And I actually think Three Finger was better in 3 than in this. I see why everyone hates this movie or thinks it's one of the worst wrong turns. It's a guilty pleasure for me. Not just because it was the first one I saw, but 3 is really horrendous. And even though I'm not a fan of prequels, I mean, there's not a whole lot that you can tell as an origin story for these brothers. All it really does is say, hey, they have those nicknames for obvious reasons. And yeah, they were sent to a sanatorium. I mean, it's not as, insulting to the intelligence that Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning is. And this is a movie that's not taking itself too seriously. It has a huge cast of characters, which means huge body count, which I appreciate. I mean, it's only meant to pop in, watch a bunch of people get killed. And it's a huge improvement over 3, I think. Both technically and effects, or at least the kill effects. Yeah, CGI is still there. But, and also seeing the 3 original brothers from the first film, I do like. Especially, I didn't really care for the extended family in 2, even though I like part 2. It's not just Three Finger after his useless son is killed. So I like that it's the 3 brothers again. But also the fact that it's in a snowy season, a snowy setting, helps keep it original. And it's still original enough for that's in this asylum, for why these friends are trying to get out there. They're looking for shelter. I've always had this guilty pleasure. Is it a shitty movie? Yes, it is. I do agree. Will this be a rant? I think I'll put semi-rant. But I've always had guilty fun with it. I know it's a crappy movie. I have all the same flaws as everyone else does. I like this better than most prequels that actually try to be serious. Maybe it's because it doesn't take itself too seriously. But Wrong Turn 4, I don't hate it. I actually like it better than 5. I like it way better than 3. I still think 3 is the worst. Either 3 or 6. I say 3 because I really don't remember part 6 well at all. But, yeah. Wrong Turn 4, Bloody Beginnings. It's a prequel I actually don't mind and have fun with. I know it's a shitty film, but I have fun with it. So stay tuned for part 5, another prequel that I do have more problems with. But we'll come to that turn when we get to it. Corny, I know. Thank you for watching.